All right, welcome back everybody. It's the morning time, so I thought this would be a good time for a morning video. Because most days I start my day with two things. I start my day with a cup of coffee and a guitar. I don't really just jump straight to work. Guitar is one of my wake-up things too. And so that got me thinking, when I was making my coffee, about making a little video about a continuation about how to learn guitar. In the first video, I kind of gave some tips about how to learn guitar. I would say that I'm a lifelong learner. As I said in the previous video, I don't really like the word teach. I consider myself a lifelong learner and an explorer. And so I do sound exploration and I do network exploration. And I'm a really exploratory data person. So I consider myself a bit of an explorer and traveler, an adventure kind of person. And that's why I prefer to not use the word teach. But I do like to talk about learning, because learning is what I do. Learning is what I do really well. And I've been explaining my processes for learning for a long time in my life. So I'll do that for guitar now instead of data science, because I like music as much as I like data science. So let's do that. So tip number one when learning how to play guitar is don't keep your guitar in a guitar case. Keep it out near you. If you keep your guitar out and accessible, then when you are nearby, you will be tempted to pick it up and play it. If you keep it in a guitar case, then you have extra steps before you can even play it. You have to take it out of the case. You probably have to tune it again. It's even a psychologically different feel when it's in a case compared to when it's just out on a stand right next to you. At least it is for me. It feels like it's kind of cut off when it's in a case. Like it's not ready. It's not even ready to be played, it feels like to me. So one of my tips that I give to people when they're interested in learning to play guitar is that they should always keep their guitar out nearby where they're playing. And you can't really see my office very well, but I've got my guitar right next to me. I've got a djembe right next to me, which I'm just learning how to play a little bit. I have a mandolin next to me, which I think would be really cool to learn also. I have my fancy new Strat right next to me, which is absolutely fun to play. And it's Texas T coding, it's really cool. I'll show it to you sometime. And in several rooms in my house, I have just guitars sitting out ready for me to play them as I walk by. If I go into my bedroom, my favorite traveling guitar is in there typically. My blue guitar, which you've probably seen on some of my videos. If I go downstairs, my daughter's Martin Koa wood guitar is down there. And if I'm in this room, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 instruments right in front of me. Well, no, more. That counts too. So 10. 11. There's a metal drum over there too. So my tip for learning anything is to keep the thing that you're learning accessible. If you have to go downstairs to get something, then it's extra steps. If it's right next to you, you just grab it and you play it. This frequently happens to me. I'll be in meetings and I will just kind of get overstimulated from being in 3 hours of meetings in a day or something like that. I do get overstimulated from being around people. And so one of my resets is to play guitar. So it's very handy that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guitars right next to my work desk, so that when those meetings are over, I play guitar. Or in some of those meetings, it's me and my buddy. And so I literally will be holding my guitar and play guitar in meetings. I think that accessibility is a big thing with learning. If the thing that you want to learn is accessible and you are genuinely interested in learning it, then you'll learn it if you put forth the work. Another example of it is these data science books that you can see over here. This bookshelf has 3 rows, and there's another bookshelf over there, and there's another bookshelf over there. And so this bookshelf over here is all engineering and AI and data science. And that bookshelf over there is pretty serious topics like manipulation and criminal minds and things like that, dark psychology kind of stuff, you know. But beneath that, there's also some cool network analysis stuff that I do. And then over here is another bookshelf, which you can't see, but it has a lot more to do with other parts of psychology, like how emotions are made and things like that, or the history of computing, like Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage's computer from the 1800s is a pretty cool story. Or a book over there on cat psychology. And so as a learner, I keep the things that I'm learning accessible to me. That way, whenever I want to take a moment and improve by the tiniest fraction, it's as easy as picking it up and doing it. I would say that anytime you come into contact with a guitar as a guitar player, you're improving. You're going to hear snobby people tell you that perfect practice makes perfect. I had a coach that said that in high school. I hate dogma so much. Perfect implies there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. And that's true to an extent when it comes to practice, but there's no one size fits all to playing guitar. There are some guitar players who can read sheet music, and there are many other guitar players who can't read sheet music. There are many guitar players who think that they do not even understand music theory, when they do. They've just figured out organically from playing the guitar. They've just never had somebody tell them that this is this. It's a formalization of training versus figuring it out. People have been making sound for as long as there have been people. Music theory is a much more recent thing. It's like the mathematics of the universe. Mathematics is a tool and a language for understanding how the universe works. Math is not the universe. Math is the way of understanding the universe. Guitar strings are another way of understanding the universe. Graphs are another way of understanding the universe. So anyway, before I ramble on that topic and get called Cosmic Dave, I just wanted to start this call and this conversation and talk a little bit about learning. So my challenge to you today is that if you keep your guitar in a case, get a guitar stand. And that's step 1, get a guitar stand. If you go on Amazon, you can find cheap stands like this for guitars for very little money, probably like $10 or something like that. This one right here is for an ukulele or mandolin, and so the size is a little bit smaller. But it looks like that. So I can put it on a stand, I can put it on the floor right next to me. Likewise, this is what a guitar stand looks like, and you can buy these at guitar stores for probably $20 or something like that. It's not a lot of money, and they're easy and they're lightweight. You can pick them up and move them wherever you want in the house. Guitar guitar stand. Guitar looks like that. You put it on the ground. You keep it nearby. You should have one stand at least for every guitar that you have. And if you like to move around in your house, like I do, then maybe have a few extra stands. For me, where I play guitar is different all the time. I like to play guitar in my bedroom sometimes when my cats are bathing in the sun. You know, they'll be sitting on my bed and just soaking up the sun. And it's really funny. I'll play guitar in there and I'll have their attention. I think my cat Eddie likes guitar. And when I play guitar downstairs, it has a different vibe. And I'll often play my daughter's Koa Wood Martin, which has a different sound and a different feel even. And when it's sunny, I often put out a hammock outside because the best thinking comes from quiet. And busyness is the enemy of good and completing things. If you want to do good things and important things that last, I think it's important to quiet your mind and slow down. And so I frequently sit outside also with my guitars, and so I have a few stands that I can take with me outside. So if I set up my hammock, I also set up a table next to my hammock so that I can put notebooks on it and highlighter pens so that I can do some thought work. And I also bring out my guitar too, because if you just think, you give yourself a headache. So it's very important to take breaks. And for me, I love taking guitar breaks. So you should keep your guitars accessible, okay? I haven't mentioned even buying guitars. You know, a lot of you guys probably don't even have guitars. Maybe you're seeing these videos from some of my performances and now you're interested in learning how to play guitar. So you might just be watching these to get some thoughts on how to do it kind of thing before going out and getting a guitar. So let me give some advice on how to buy a guitar, because we're only 12 minutes in. We can do a little bit longer. Some people are very surprised that guitar players buy more than one guitar. It's like they expect that you're going to buy this one magical guitar and you're going to be like, oh my God, I love my Gibson Hummingbird. I guess I don't love the rest of my guitars that I've spent my entire life playing anymore. They don't understand that every one of these guitars has a different voice, and every one of these guitars has played a different part in a guitarist's history. Guitarists don't always just get rid of their guitars like we're throwing away an old toy. At least I don't. They're very sentimental to me. So when you are buying guitars, I would say that there are two factors to think about. One is what you can afford, and two is how the guitar actually feels in your hand. Before you go into a guitar store, you should have a budget that you're looking to spend. And I will say that that budget can be too low. But I will also say that there are also other guitar stores. So let me explain that for a second. Last October, I was helping a family buy a guitar for their kid. Their initial budget was too low. They were basically limited to maybe one guitar in the entire store, and it wasn't a very good guitar in my opinion. And I've been playing guitar for 32 years, and so my opinion is quite valid. And often when people buy a guitar, that's the guitar that they stay with for a long time. And so I think that it's very important that your first guitar that you buy not be one that is bad. And I would say that there is such a thing as a bad feel for a guitar. There are certain guitars that have there are great guitars that have characteristics that are a pain in the neck for a beginner. I love my Gibson Les Paul, but the B string on it goes out of tune all the freaking time, and there are lots of guitar players that complain about that. I've been playing guitar for a long time, so I don't really mind it so much anymore. It's just a thing that I understand. And it's true of a lot of different guitars. It's not just the Gibson Les Paul. If you are playing Jimi Hendrix and you're doing a bunch of bends of your strings, your guitar is going to go out of tune and you have to tune it again between songs. It's just a fact of life. But there are certain guitars that make things a little bit worse. Anyway, the Gibson Les Paul is absolutely not a bad guitar. But I would say that it's not an ideal guitar for a person to start out with, because first of all, it's way outside of most people's budget. And second, that B string is annoying if you're starting out. The first thing to think about is the budget. How much can you actually afford to spend on a guitar? And that's basically your envelope to work with. So if you can afford to spend $450 for your first guitar, then that opens up quite a lot more opportunity than if you're only willing to spend $250 on your first guitar. Personally, I believe that for your first guitar, you should spend as much as you can afford to spend on your first guitar. I don't mean to be wasteful. I mean, you should get the best guitar that you can possibly afford to get for your first guitar. If you intend to take guitar seriously, you should get a good guitar for your first guitar, not wait 10 years to get a good guitar. But there's a spectrum of good guitars. So if you're a brand new guitar player and you want to get into rock music, personally, I would say start with a Fender Stratocaster. And I'll show you my first one. This actually is not my first guitar. This is my second electric guitar. I don't even have my first electric anymore. It's probably in Japan or something. Or maybe I lost it in Ohio. But this is my Fender Strat that I got when I was about 20 years old. And this guitar cost $750 back then. And so these days it would probably cost about $1,000 something. And I got it in Japan. And so it's actually quite in demand. The made in Japan Strats people like them a lot in America. I didn't know that because I grew up in Japan. And so to me, a Japanese Strat is just a Strat. It's just a Strat. It's just a Fender Strat to me. But then I got to America and we're like, oh my God, it's made in Japan Fender Strat. I'm like, what? So apparently this guitar has more value than I knew. But to me, it's just a Strat. A Fender Stratocaster. But not every guitarist can afford to pay $750 for their first guitar. Some people can afford to spend $350, or some people can afford to spend $450. You're not out of luck if that's true. There are also Squier. So there's Squier Strats. There's Fender Stratocaster and there's Squier Stratocasters also. And so you can get a Squier Stratocaster for probably about $450 exactly, something like that. Maybe $350 even. A Fender Strat is going to cost more than a Squier. Did I say that right? Yeah. A Fender Strat is going to cost more than a Squier. That's right. And likewise, Gibsons also have a lower end called Epiphone. And so if you like the Gibson family of guitars, you can get an Epiphone Les Paul. My phone was doing an annoying notification today. It's just testing me. So that means if you're interested in buying a Gibson Les Paul, okay, so let me rewind for a second. So if you wanted to get a Fender Strat and you can't afford to get a Fender Strat, get a Squier Stratocaster, because you can get this guitar similar for $350 to $400 instead of $750 to $1,000. And Fender Strats go up in value too. So this is my Strat from 1994 and it cost about $750. And this is my Strat from May last year, which is a major upgrade, and this cost a lot more. And so the difference is the electronics on it are much better. And it's got some fancy pickups, and it's got ebony wood, so the wood is higher quality, just a lot of different things. So these are both Strats. They are not the same. They look very similar, but they are not the same. These are two different beasts. This thing can scream. This is a serious rock guitar. This thing can also scream. I played in a lot of rock shows in my 20s using this. Their voices are different. It's like two different people. So again, you want to look for what you can afford. That's your baseline. And then you want to play what feels good. And so if your budget is $450, first of all, you're welcome to comment and text me. Comment and ask questions. I'm happy to help you out with these kinds of things. What kinds of guitar you should get, etc., etc. The kid that I helped in October, he ended up buying a Squier Stratocaster for about $350 and an amp for maybe $150 or something like that after that. And he's set. I think that guitar is going to last him for a long time. So you don't need to spend $1,000 to get your start guitar. You could probably start decently for about $350 today. And that same $350 is what I've been saying for about 10 years. So inflation is a real thing that happens, but for some reason that same price range still works. So if you go too low, you might find that all the guitars are painful. If all the guitars are just painful, that could be a symptom of a problem. Money is tight, even for me right now. And so I don't recommend people just be foolish with their money. But paying a little bit more can push it past that quality threshold from being just a really low quality instrument to being something that you're happy to hang out with for years and years and years and learn from. And so if you're starting guitar, I would recommend that you start with like a Squier Stratocaster, if not an outright Fender Stratocaster. And if you don't like Stratocasters, here's my recommendation. This is a Telecaster. And so there's Stratocasters and there's Telecasters. And Telecaster is a different animal than a Stratocaster too. The pickups are different and the feel is different. And for the longest time in my life, for some reason, I didn't really like Telecasters. I didn't like the design of the neck up here. I thought the thin looked really goofy, but eventually I got over it because the sound of these things is incredible. Telecaster is probably the electric guitar that I relate to the best. If there's one electric guitar in my whole house that is me, it's probably this one. And if there's one acoustic guitar in my house that is me, it's absolutely this one. And I have 10 guitars or something like that. And so you learn these things as you pick up instruments. But I'm still very fond of my first instruments and things like that. So, okay, let me end this. I just wanted to give some tips for getting started. So when you buy your first guitar, buy something that you can afford. Don't go too cheap. Play all of the guitars in the guitar store that are in that price range and make a mental note of the one that you actually like the best. That is most affordable. Create like a little matrix in your mind, scores or something like that. And then get the best guitar that you can get for the lowest price range as you can afford to pay. I do this myself, if I'm paying for this quality of a guitar, there are other guitars that are in the same band and I have to do the same thing. So am I going to buy that one or am I going to go buy this other expensive guitar? And same thing if I'm in this range, am I going to buy this Telecaster or am I going to get a Jaguar instead or something else? So, and then finally, just keep your guitars accessible all the time. If you put them in a case, you're not learning, you're collecting. And to me, guitar is for playing. Some people do collect them, that's their thing, that's okay too. But for me, to me, guitar is for expressing yourself. And you're not expressing yourself with the guitar if it's in a case. So I just recommend that you keep it on a stand, keep other instruments out. They can also inspire you too. All right, So that's it for this morning. Thanks for having coffee with me and having a little guitar chat. See you next time.